Hey, it's James here. Welcome back to this mini-series on personal branding. Now, this is video number 4. If you've not checked out the first 3 videos, I'd recommend you do because we're right at the end of our journey here. And I'll put the links on the screen now so you can check out parts 1, 2, and 3. Now, in this video, I want to talk about community, engagement, and growth, because once you've started to roll out your personal brand, these are the 3 things that I think are really key to accelerate it and take it to the next level. Because ultimately, if you're not getting engagement, you don't really know if it's working. And also, getting engagement will help gain that momentum. It will help you get more views, more clicks, more likes, etc., which is what we all want. So I specifically wanted to talk about growing the community and getting more engagement. So let's dive right in. Hey Philip, so first of all, just start off by introducing yourself and let us know what you do.
Sure, my name's Philip VanDusen, and I have a branding and design agency called Verhaal Brand Design, but I also have a YouTube channel and a professional group for creative professionals and entrepreneurs called Brand Design Masters, a Facebook group, a paid mastermind group, and a podcast.
And you've kind of grown your audience over the last 4 years. You're about to hit 200,000, which is really exciting. So really what I wanted to do today is just find out how that journey's looked like for you and, what have you done to create that audience and kind of facilitate that growth?
Sure. Well, thanks, James, number one, for having me on the show. It's really great to be here. And it's been quite a journey. Before we hit record, we were talking about you were saying how quickly I've grown it. And I feel like it's taken forever. But it's been about 4 years. And as you said, my YouTube channel is pushing 200,000 now. And it has been a lot of hard work, I'll tell you that. I mean, when I first started my channel, the first thing I did was, number one, I'm a branding and design guy. So I made sure that I had made the decisions around my brand before I started my channel. And one of the things that I think is important that I don't think a lot of people pay attention to as much as they should. And in fact, I was just coaching someone on this yesterday. Right out of the gate, you've pretty much got to make a lot of decisions around your branding, because one of the key things in branding is that you have to be recognizable. People have to know that it's you when they come across you. So deciding on what your design ecosystem is going to be, your logo, your fonts, your colors, the photography style that you're going to use, the thumbnail style that you're going to use, all those things are really important in terms of, designing your channel to begin with, which is doing your channel artwork, doing your thumbnail artwork, doing your intro channel video that kind of kicks off your channel page. And then as you record videos and publish those videos, you've got to decide on a thumbnail style. It's important that when you start the channel and you start producing videos, you put a thumbnail on every video, obviously. And when people come across your videos in their YouTube feed, over 50% of the time they're coming across it on a phone. And your thumbnail, when you may be designing on your computer, is, nice and big. And, it's easy to make decisions that are on the fact that you're looking at it at a larger scale. When most of the time when people look at your thumbnail for your YouTube videos, they're going to be looking at it on a phone, and it's going to be about 3/4 of an inch by 2/8 of an inch. It's going to be tiny. So you have to make sure that your branding is pronounced enough and clear enough and consistent enough that when people are flipping and scrolling through videos to watch, when they come across your video, they know that it's you. So every time they come across a video from you, you want it to look the same, feel the same, have the same colors, because that kind of recognition is what starts to cement people's attraction to you and building that audience. So number one, you've got to start with a recognizable brand and some decisions around that. Because number one, you've got to be recognized when you're coming through in people's feed.
Do you think it's a case of first time someone sees a video of you, they might not necessarily subscribe. So you want to be recognizable. So they say, oh, it's that guy I watched before. He was really good. And then they might subscribe after watching like the second or third video.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want to make the thumbnail striking enough that it makes some sort of statement. You have some sort of a style to it, because if they watch that video and then they liked it, and then a week later they're scrolling through and they go, oh wow, that's a thumbnail, same guy, I liked his video last week. But if you have a completely different thumbnail style or a completely different photography style, you use a totally different font, they might not even recognize it. So that immediate recognition is really critical when it comes to building your audience from the very beginning, because all people are coming across is your thumbnail. And so getting people to click on that thumbnail is really important. Next thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you have a call to action in your videos. And I can't believe that as a branding guy, for the first 20 or 30 videos that I did, I never even had a call to action. And what that call to action for me was subscribe to my video, and you point down to the subscribe button. And over time, those calls to actions evolved and changed from, go to my website and subscribe to my newsletter so you can get on my email list, and, other things, masterminds that I was selling or whatever the current thing I was promoting, the launch of my podcast, whatever that is. But you want to make sure that you're putting your video to use to build your brand, because yes, you can put out content and you want to give people value. You don't want to make it all about you, because you do want to make it about them and the value you're providing them. But you also don't want to shortchange yourself in what you can get out of that in your own brand.
Do you think it makes sense to change the call to action every few videos? Because obviously, videos are evergreen. So if you've got some videos at the end which are saying subscribe to your podcast, some which are saying go to your website and opt into an email newsletter. Therefore, you've got a variety of CTAs which will cause different actions, and you've kind of got a constant funnel of people coming in via different channels then.
I do. I think that's very smart, because another thing that people do is as soon as they sense that the tail end, the outro of your video, they turn off and they go to the next video. So if you give them anything that kind of will keep them there to say, oh, well, is he talking about something I've never heard before? That you're increasing the chances are that they're going to watch through to the end of the video. The other method that is really helpful to use for that is when you kick off your video, I do two things. At the very beginning of your channel, the first few 20, 30 videos, you want to make sure that you're qualifying the audience, or you're identifying the audience. You want to say, hey, my channel is for creative entrepreneurs and creative professionals and designers, and I help you do X, Y, Z. And so what that does for the people who are coming across your videos for the first time, they're going, oh, that's me. I'm a designer. I'm an entrepreneur, or I'm really looking to use brand design to service my clients or to build my own personal brand. And as soon as they self-identify, you have them. So there's a sense of magnetism that attracts from the beginning. Otherwise, if you go right into the content, they either identify with the content or not. But if they feel like they are in the audience and you are their people, then there's a connection that happens there. The other thing that I do right out of the gate is you say, okay, what I'm going to be talking about is consumer insights. And at the end of the video, towards the end of the video, I'm going to share the one secret tool that I use for consumer insights that almost no one uses. And what that does is it sets up a level of anticipation to the viewer that they want to watch through all the way to the end. And you don't tell them exactly when you're going to share that thing. And you don't, I noticed that you use the channel markers on your videos now, and you don't give them that indication either. So basically they have to watch through to get the secret. And it's a leading tool, but you got to deliver on that promise too. But it's one of the things that YouTube values and rewards you for in serving your videos up in search or serving your videos up in people's feed is watch time. And making sure that people don't watch for 30 seconds and then everyone's dropping off. Because if that's the case, it's showing YouTube that your videos are boring and you're either promising something you're not delivering, or it's not a video that people are really engaging with or really liking very much. So you want to get out of the gate, get people engaged, but keep them there as long as you possibly can.
In terms of personal branding, obviously, it's probably, I imagine, it's done phenomenally for your business and for your consultancy. Having this brand, having this awareness of you as a graphic designer expert. What was it that prompted you to sort of go into this in the first place? Why did you decide to upload that first video? Was this the intention that you were going to grow to this level, or has this kind of just been part of the journey?
Yes, it was my intention.
Okay.
And I've had a 25 plus year career in big corporate and big agency. I've been a senior creative executive, C-suite VP level for 25 years. And I kind of burn out of the big corporate life and went out on my own. And when you go from being under the wing of a corporation or a giant agency for that long of a period of time, your entire personal identity, your business card, your salary, everything is tied up in that thing. And I had not built any kind of personal brand for myself. I hadn't developed any content. I hadn't spoken that much, really. I had virtually no social media presence at all. And I was starting my own branding agency, and I knew that I had to do business development, and I was going to work with smaller clients than my historical clients had been. The P&Gs, Coca-Colas, Johnson and Johnsons of the world. And so I knew that I had to find and reach out to a completely different audience. And so first of all, I started a newsletter so I could start building an email list. And this is a point I wanted to make in terms of building community in this interview, is that you want to build an audience on YouTube, yes, but you also want to build an audience on a platform that you control, which in most cases is an email list. Okay. And so my idea was, the first thing I did was I started a newsletter to build my email list and to have a platform that I could communicate with people directly. And then also I could get my audience from whatever platform I was getting them on, whether it was LinkedIn or YouTube or Twitter, and I could get them so I had a way to contact them directly. That's the biggest downfall of YouTube. It's great to have 200,000 subscribers, but I have no way of contacting them directly. And unless they get them off YouTube and onto my email list, YouTube could pull the plug or change their algorithm or decide that my channel sucks and they could turn me off, and that'd be it. That'd be poof. So you have to really be cognizant of, here's a great quote that says, "Don't build your brand on borrowed land." YouTube is borrowed land. And you have to make sure that if you're building an audience there, you are pulling that audience to make sure that they're engaging with you somewhere else as well, where you can directly contact them.
Do you make a point of regularly sending out an email whenever you release a new video?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I promote that video. Yes, absolutely. I promote it on LinkedIn. I promote it on Twitter. I promote it in my Facebook group, on my agency Facebook page, on my personal Facebook page. So I promote it across a lot of different Instagram, a lot of different platforms. Content repurposing. Video is one of the greatest. This is a whole nother subject we could talk about, James.
I know where you're going to go, and I completely agree.
Video is the best medium to repurpose across platforms.
100%.
That was another reason that I purposefully went into video. Number one, I went into video instead of a podcast immediately because I'm in design, and design is a visual medium, and I knew that I had to be able to show what I was talking about. So I went into video. And I also knew that if I did video, I could repurpose it to audio, but I can't repurpose audio to video. I mean, you can, but it's a little more boring, right?
Yeah.
And so that was purposeful. And to get back to your original question, the reason I started my YouTube channel is because I hate doing cold outreach of any kind for business development. And as I learned about the power of content marketing, as I moved into the world of digital entrepreneurship after my corporate and agency career, I realized that content marketing was the way to go because I knew a lot from my history in the industry. I had a tremendous amount of valuable stuff to share, both with client-side people as well as creative professionals. And I knew that if I just went out there and shared everything I knew, people would get to know me, they'd get to trust me, they'd get to realize that I know what I'm talking about, and it would be a client magnet. And so that's what I did. I went out on YouTube and I started sharing everything I know and learned in my years and years in the industry, working with clients, but also working as a manager and leader of creative professionals. And it worked.
And I've noticed that you kind of, obviously, a lot of the recent videos especially are focusing on more on entrepreneurial type stuff. Is that kind of been a natural evolution? I guess if you're putting out videos, like top 10 tips to be a good entrepreneur, traits of the successful people, I think this is all great content. But it's very different to, I think, like looking at sort of how you started out. So is that kind of just evolved naturally, or is that to try and attract more entrepreneurs who are looking for design services as well?
It's been a constant. My content really hasn't changed that much, actually. I started out of the gate sharing very kind of boilerplate how-to type of videos in how to do certain things with branding or strategy or business planning. And I've tried, one of the things I wanted to share about in talking to you is that one of the things that's important to do when you're starting a YouTube channel is to experiment a little bit, because you're going to find out that certain types of content are going to resonate better than others. Meaning, I started off doing some how-to videos, and then I did some, kind of live, more lo-fi, less produced videos. I started doing a few lives, and did some videos that were purely for entrepreneurs or small to medium-sized business people. I did some videos that were purely for creative professionals or designers who were looking to advance their careers or do better in portfolio reviews or get a raise or get hired to a new job. So I experimented across themes. I experimented a little bit across who my target was specifically. The purpose of my channel is to help creative professionals and entrepreneurs leverage brand design and strategy to improve their own businesses and the businesses of their clients. So there's a lot of overlap. When a creative professional is looking to develop their own personal brand, or an entrepreneur or small business is looking to develop and establish their brand, there's a lot of overlap on those things. So I talked on those overlap topics. But in that experimentation, I also tried a lot of different things. I reviewed things. I talked about products. I did, opinion pieces. I talked about, how-tos. I did numbered lists. I did some trend videos. And when I tried a trend video, that was a big unlock for me. I was in the fashion retail industry for 15 years and traveled the globe for decades, shopping for trend. So I learned how to search for trend and communicate what trends are, because that's what we did in the fashion industry. And so I did a trend video on graphic design trend, and it was really popular. The first one I did, I don't know, got 500,000 views or something like that. Blew my head away. I went, oh my God.
Is that one of those pivotal moments for you?
Yeah, it was. It was like one of those big aha moments where you have a video that does really well. Like I have another video that's like interviewing tools for graphic designers. And it's, what are the questions that you need to pay attention to in an interview, or how do you get better at interviewing? That one also incredibly successful because it hit a nerve. And so what you do is you experiment, you pay attention, you see where you're hitting those nerves or getting that stickiness with your audience, and then you expand on that. And so the next year I did another trend video. And this one, because the first one had been so popular, someone at Design Taxi saw it and they put it on Design Taxi's homepage for like 2 days straight, and it just it blew up, and I got over 1 million views on it, and my subscribership exploded. And it's those kinds of experimentations that leads to results. And as long as you're paying attention to what's being successful and you're leveraging those successes, you can grow your channel. One of the things I want to mention, though, is that you can go out of the gate with an assumption of who your audience is, or what it is that you want to share, or what it is that you're good at. But what your videos, the success in certain videos that you do may lead you in a direction that you might not have expected or know. And you really have to be open to that evolution. And that's something that I think that a lot of people aren't prepared for when they start on YouTube.
That's fascinating, actually. Yeah, I think that's really good advice. Yeah, because
it's uncomfortable to change. Or it's uncomfortable to listen. Sometimes it's uncomfortable to listen to your audience because they may be telling you something that they really need that may not be the thing that you were planning on spending all your time on, right?
Yeah, and of course, you then end up attracting a completely different audience, which kind of leads us nicely onto sort of community. Obviously, community is important, especially on YouTube. People like to get involved in the discussion. And I'm curious to hear your perspective on how you've leveraged the community to help grow. And also, how do you engage with them? What's your approach to it? Because I think a lot of people sort of think, well, either people don't spend time replying to comments, or they just think, well, you don't need to engage with people. They're just your audience. So I think, I'm a big believer that you've got to nurture your community. You've got to nurture your audience, and it has to be a two-way thing. So maybe you could sort of give us a bit of a background on your approach to that.
Sure. Well, one thing is I am a huge believer in responding to comments. I have responded to every single comment I have ever gotten.
Really?
I've responded to over 15,000 comments.
Even the crazy ones?
Even the crazy ones, and especially the crazy ones, because people who start off crazy, or you think are crazy, or they're haters, or they're flamers, or whatever it is, if you treat them with respect and take the high road, a lot of times it can evolve into a conversation that has value. I've had people who've had a bad day, right? And they've spit out some nasty comment about the video. And I've commented back and say, I'm sad that your response wasn't that you didn't enjoy the video so much. Is there something that you would have liked to see differently in it. And a lot of times people will come back and they go, oh, wow, I was never expecting you to respond to me. I'm really sorry. I was having a really bad day. I didn't mean to come off so negative. Yeah. And I've had a lot of experiences like that. And I've engaged with everybody in a respectful way in my comments. And when people give me a meaningful comment or ask a question, I respond to it. And I've learned a lot by communicating with my YouTube audience that way about what they like, what they don't like, if they have an additional question, if they want to see a video, another video like the one I just did. Paying attention to things like that is really important. The other thing that I did was in driving people off of YouTube to my email list and then communicating with them through my email list, I put out this newsletter and I would promote my videos in the newsletter. But then after doing that for about 3/4 of a year, I started to poll my email list audience and said, the first one I sent was like a 2-sentence email. It said, I just have a question for you. I want to know what's the thing that you're struggling with the most in your professional practice or your business? And I got back 250 responses and I was like, blew my head away. And I copied and pasted all those responses. I put it in a Google sheet and then I categorized them by what the topic was that problem was. And I sorted it. And I was blown away in what I learned. I had presumptions about what I thought people were struggling with or what they wanted to see. And in one particular case, I got back an answer that I had no idea about, which was that apart from getting more clients, the second most important thing that people struggle with is time management. And I had no idea. And so I started to do some videos about time management and they were really successful. And so starting that conversation, that engagement, asking the questions and listening and responding with content is what builds that audience because you're giving your audience what they need. You can go out, like I said, you go out of the gate with assumptions of who the audience is and what they need. But when it comes down to it, you have to ask them along the way because you're going to be refining what you're delivering along the way.
What I love about that exercise is, a lot of people will assume that they have to go and put, a poll together or they'll send out like a survey, which I think immediately is kind of a turn off for people who receive that sort of thing. No one wants to spend time responding to surveys and, it's boring, isn't it? Whereas if you literally just ask that open-ended question and invite people to get in touch, they feel like that you're listening, I guess, as well. Did you actually respond to all of those emails as well then?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
The 250 was a lot.
Yeah.
But I responded to the entire email list afterwards and thanked the people who had responded. People who gave me, the funny thing is a lot of people write like 3 words and then some people write a paragraph, a half a page. I mean, they give you a lot of detail about where they've been, their life story, their business story, what they're struggling with. And that to me, it opens this door. It opens this door to this much deeper level of relationship. And those people I would respond to directly and say, wow, thank you so much for sharing so much detail around your process and your journey because it's really helping me understand my audience. And that is, again, really important. And then it also starts to, when people get a response from me directly, they're like, oh my God, this is so cool. You're a real person. You're actually talking to me directly. And that's gratifying too, when people feel seen. And I think that that's another part of building and engaging an audience is the audience has to feel seen. They have to feel like they're being listened to and that you're paying attention to them.
I think also just sending emails from an address that people can reply to, because for so long, companies especially love to send out email from noreply@companyname.com. And it's just like a really cold way of dealing with customers.
Yeah.
It frustrates me sometimes when I get emails from a small company. You can kind of understand when it's some huge corporate, but like a small company, they send an email from a no reply address. You reply to them, and then you have to kind of jump around hoops to submit a ticket or whatever. Whereas there's so many systems out there now. You don't need to necessarily rely just on your inbox. You can feed it into a help desk just to kind of make it easier to manage. I think that's a really good tip as well.
Yeah, and I've used my personal email, not my personal, but my personal business email address. I use Philip VanDusen at Verhaal.co. And people are kind of, and rather than, I hate it when I get an email from like info at blah, 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 or admin at, and that makes me feel like I'm talking to an empty mailbox.
Yeah, absolutely. So are most designers entrepreneurs, or are most entrepreneurs designers?
I think that most entrepreneurs have to be conscious of brand design
Yeah.
and brand strategy. They have to appreciate it. And if they don't, it's at their peril. So and I think that most designers or creative professionals today, in today's creative economy, have to understand brand design and brand strategy to help their clients. So I think that the needs of both of those cohorts are beginning to attract each other and to overlap. And one of the things the reason why I say that about creative professionals is because design and a lot of creative deliverables have been commoditized over the last 5 to 10 years. And so the global economy has been driving prices down, and AI design and all that sort of stuff has been driving prices down across the globe. And creative professionals are struggling, though independent ones are struggling with how to keep up and how to command the prices that they used to command. And one of the things that I advocate for very heavily is starting to learn brand strategy and business strategy and how those things intersect with design. Because you've got to become a deeper level of a partner to your clients and be able to advise them on a deeper level of things in order to combat the Fivers, the 99 Designs, the people in the Philippines or India who will do a logo for $25. So you've got to become a deeper level partner. And my motivation for talking to entrepreneurs is that if I can get them to understand and value the power of brand design and brand strategy, they will want to become those sorts of partners with their creative professional partners.
Yeah.
So it's creating this, basically I'm kind of nurturing them both so they can get married. Like you said at the very beginning, you're a matchmaker. You're making a match between podcast guests or podcast hosts. Same thing. I'm kind of making a match between entrepreneurs and creative professionals, trying to find that the commonality and how they both can survive in this economy today.
Do you think that's been one of the driving factors of the growth of the channel as well? The fact that you're marrying those two together. And I imagine that we know there's loads of channels talking about entrepreneurial stuff, and we know there's loads of channels just giving design tutorials. So it's kind of the fusion of the two that's kind of unique, maybe, or USP almost.
That's exactly it. And it's really, I just started a Facebook group, the Brand Design Masters Facebook group, about a month ago, and it's grown very quickly. And it's great to see it's kind of a fishbowl, actually, of a combination of those two people. And they're asking questions that are creating crossover conversations. And so it's been a wonderful proof point for me that that's a very kind of, it's a very successful niche of that, that kind of intersection of those sorts of things. And that's a very astute, I think, observation, James. And I don't know that I've ever heard anyone kind of articulate it in that way, that you're right. I mean, there are a lot of business and entrepreneur channels. Yeah. There's a lot of design channels, but there's very few that do this kind of combination of skill sets and how they intersect with each other and how they can empower each other. So yes, that's exactly what I try to do. There's one point I wanted to make, though, about YouTube that I thought I'd bring up.
Sure.
And is that one of the things that's really important for people to realize who want to build an audience on YouTube is that they have to understand that YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world. Because YouTube is owned by Google, Google prioritizes YouTube results in Google searches as well as intersecting Google importance into YouTube searches. So I'll just give you an example. I did what turned out to be a very popular video on what does a creative director do. I was a creative director for 25 years. I know what they do. Lots of people don't. And so I did this video on what the reality of being a creative director is. Anyway, within about and the video was popular. Within about 6 months, if you did an image search on Google for creative director, the thumbnail for that video was result number 1.
Wow.
Followed by about 80 pictures, black and white pictures of really famous creative directors.
Yeah.
And that kind of blew my mind because the video had only been out for about 6 months. And Google was prioritizing the image thumbnail of that creative director video to the number 1 spot of Google image search. And it was because of that marriage between Google and YouTube. And again, if you search on lots of different branding or design topics, my videos will come up in regular Google search. You know how when you do Google search, it does a couple results and then it'll have like 3 YouTube videos. I show up there too. So getting recognition and leverage on YouTube can affect very heavily your Google results, which are where money comes from.
and also as well, I think, if you wanted to get to your website to number 1 for the term creative director, that will take a lot longer and cost a lot more. And, bidding on that keyword, for example, will cost a huge amount per click, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's prohibitive.
Yeah.
There are global agencies that have that locked up for like tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. I think that was a really good chat, and you've given so much there. I really appreciate it. Just to finish up, how can people find out more about you? How can they get in touch?
Sure. The best place is to get on my newsletter, which is called Brand Muse. It comes out every couple of weeks. And if you go to philipvandusen.com/muse, I'm sure you'll put the link in the description.
Yeah, of course.
You can sign up for my newsletter, and that's how I communicate with people directly. You can also go to facebook.com/groups/brand design masters and join the private Brand Design Masters Facebook group, which I just mentioned. And it's a really vibrant, interactive community of creative professionals and entrepreneurs. And I spend a lot of my time there. And so being a member of that community, you'll get much more direct contact with me. So I would say those 2 things are the way to go.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
James, thank you. It was a pleasure being here.
Hey, so that's it. That's video number 4 of how to grow and build a personal brand. Now, if you found these videos useful, if you've been with me for this whole series, I'd love to know your thoughts, and also I'd love to see what you've come up with. Please put a comment below this video and link me to your profiles. I'd love to give you a shout out perhaps in a future video. And if you've not already done so, it'd be rude for me not to give a little plug to our businesses. So if you didn't know already, I'm founder of 3 companies: Radio.co, which helps radio stations broadcast online; Podcast.co, which gets podcasts off the ground; and Matchmaker.fm, which is a platform which connects podcasters together with guests, which is also coincidentally a really hot, fantastic way to grow your personal brand. I've got other videos on this channel which talk about how to get booked on podcasts as guests. Go and check them out. Remember to give us a thumbs up and please subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Thanks for watching these videos, and I will speak to you soon. Take it easy.